called vertex form. And there are two main ways that we will write out quadratic equations. One of those being the vertex form. And it's called that because just by looking at it, you can tell what the vertex is. And so here's what it looks like. Y equals x minus h squared plus k. And to find the vertex, the x value of the vertex comes from this number. We actually take the opposite. So if it says x minus 3, then the x value of your vertex is a positive 3. If it said like x plus 7, the x value would be negative 7. And then this number, you do not take the opposite of it. It is the y value of the vertex. And I did forget something. There is supposed to be an a in front of those parentheses. And that a tells us a couple things. The one that we're going to focus on the most is if it's positive or negative. If it's a positive number, the parabola points up. So the arrows point up. If it's a negative number, your parabola points down. If that number, the bigger the number is, so like if it's 2, 3, 4, that's going to make your parabola get skinnier. If it's like 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, it's going to make your parabola get fatter. But we're not going to do much with that in this unit. So let's look down here at some examples. And we're going to tell the vertex and the axis of symmetry. And remember, the axis of symmetry, you have to put what at the beginning? X equals. And then it's the x value of your vertex. So we don't have to do any type of calculations to find this. So number 1, my vertex, I'm going to take the opposite of this number, which gives me a positive 6, and this number on the end, which is a positive 2. The 4 in the front does not affect the vertex at all. So this one would be a pretty skinny parabola. And it's a positive 4, which means the parabola is going to open up. What would my axis of symmetry be? Any ideas? What's it start with? X equals, and then it's the x value of your vertex, which is 6. Number 2, my vertex is what?
2, 8.
Close. Negative 2. So you flip the sign of what's in the parentheses. Negative 2, 8. And my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 2. Number 3, my vertex is, yep, negative 3, negative 5. And the axis of symmetry is x equals negative 3. Numbers 4, 5, and 6 are slightly different. On this one, the first three we did, all the numbers were together on the same side. These, the 4's been moved over, and we've got to move it back. Because otherwise, I'm going to say that the y value of my vertex is positive 4, which is not true. Because to move the 4 over, I have to subtract 4 from both sides. And it becomes negative x minus 1 squared minus 4 equals 0. I cannot do negative 1 minus 4 because the negative 1 is in the parentheses and it's being squared, and you just can't do that. So you just write the minus 4 at the end.
Why is that negative 4? Not negative 5.
You cannot do the negative 1. You cannot take the negative 4 from the negative 1 because that's in parentheses. And it's being squared, and you just got to write it out by itself. Okay. So my vertex is 1, negative 4. And my axis of symmetry is x equals 1. So number 5, we've got to add 8 to both sides. Yeah, it'll either say equals 0, or if it already just says like f of x equals or y equals, you know it's all together on the same side. So what's my vertex? Negative 5, 8. And my axis of symmetry is not negative 5. X equals negative 5. Number 6. Is there anything to add over? There's not. So what would my vertex be?
0, 4.
Close.
4, 0.
4, 0. Yep. 4, 0. And the axis of symmetry would be
4.
X equals 4. Good.
So you don't do anything with the 2?
The 2 does not do anything for the vertex or axis of symmetry. So let's turn over. Now these next 3 questions, I've given you the vertex and you have to give me an equation. And technically there's an infinite number of correct answers because you could put any number in the front as long as you get the rest of it correct, it would still have that same vertex. Okay. So, give me a number.
4.
I heard 4.
That's right.
Okay? It doesn't have to do anything with the 2 or the 5. It could be positive, it could be negative, it could be big, little, fraction, whatever. That's not going to change the vertex at all. What would go inside the parentheses?
X minus something.
X minus 2.
Do you half or something?
Oh, yeah.
Because here's your vertex. The x value of the vertex, that's the part that goes in the parentheses. And it's the opposite. So it's x minus 2. And then what goes at the end?
Plus 5.
Plus 5. Just for the sake of being simple, let's just always assume that the number in the front is 1. Or if you already did it and you put another number, that's fine too. I'm just not going to put a number there. And that would be 1. So number 8 would be y equals what?
1
x plus 4 squared minus 1. Good. And you could have any number you wanted in front of that, and it would still be correct. So number 9 would be x minus 8 squared minus 3. Good.
You always have to square it.
Yep, that's part of, if it's not squared, it's not a quadratic. So let's say I am going to look at that. Y equals x minus 8 squared minus 3. That's going to be the blue one. If I don't square it, let's look at the difference. So this is the correct one. It's a parabola. If you don't square it, it's actually just a straight line. Yep. So, all right. Now, 10, 11, and 12 are almost the same, except I gave you the graph. I didn't just tell you the vertex. So you've got to look at the vertex and figure it out. Now, all of these three, when I graphed them, I just had the A value, the number in front. I just assumed it was 1. So we can just assume that as well. So number 10, what's the vertex? 2, 1. So what would my equation be? Yep. Number 11, what's the vertex?
Negative 3, 4.
Negative 3, 4. So what's my equation? X plus 3 squared plus 4.
Why isn't there a number in front of the parentheses like we did at
For it to actually match this graph, when I made the graph, I made it as if there was not a number in the front. Like, let's say I made it a 2. If that had a 2 in the front, it would be a lot skinnier. It would be like more like this.
But it would still be
It would have the same vertex, but since I actually gave you the graph, this, I did it as if there was not a number in the front.
So whenever like these problems show up, just don't worry about the front number.
Yeah, you don't have to.
When will you start having to worry?
I mean, if it's multiple choice, there could be a front number, there could not. But if you were just answering this, I would have counted it correct no matter what you put in the front. You could have put negative 7,000. You could have left it with no number in the front, and it would still be correct because that number does not affect the vertex. And that's all that I was worried about, was the vertex. We're not going to do anything with, if it's wide or narrow, we're not going to do anything with that. So number 12, what's the vertex? Negative 1, negative 4. So this one would be y equals
X plus 1 squared.
minus 4. Yep. And then 2 more questions. This time I gave you the equation and I want you to draw the graph. So in these, in number 13, I did have a number there. So that is going to go in for part of the graph when we do it. Okay, but it still does not affect the vertex. No matter what number is in front, it's going to have the same vertex. And what is the vertex at number 13? 4, 4. So right here's your vertex. So when you are graphing, I want you to make a table, an XY table. And typically, we put our vertex kind of in the middle because a parabola is symmetric with the vertex kind of being that middle point where you would fold it, where that axis of symmetry is. So we have 4, 4. And then I would do a couple of x values above, a couple below. So I could do like 3 and 2. 5. Normally I would do a 6, but my graph doesn't go past 5, so there's no point in doing that. So then what I can do is take these x values and plug them in the equation, and it would tell me what the y value is. So if I want to use the 2, type that in, and I get -4. Plug in a 3 for x. And you get 2. And then when I plug in a 5, I also get 2. Parabolas are symmetric, so if this is my vertex, if this is in the middle, then my y value should basically mirror. So if I did do a 6, what number would I get as my y value? -4. Yeah. So they're the same y values on either side of the vertex. So 2, -4, 3, 2, and 5, 2. A parabola is not a V shape. So when you draw it, do not draw a harsh V. They're not the easiest to draw and make look awesome because you can't use a ruler because they're curved. So just do the best you can. And it looks something like that. So let's look at number 14. What's the vertex? -4, -1. Now if we look back at 13, notice the arrows pointed down. It did that because the number in the front was a negative number. On this one, I don't have a negative, so I assume it's positive, so the arrow should point up on this one. So if I go lower than -4, I can really only get 1 to fit. And then -3, -2, -1, I'll see if that many fit. So I've got -5 plus 4 squared minus 1, 0. And knowing that they're symmetric, I should get a 0 for the -3, but I'll double check. Yep. -2. And -1/8, that will not fit on my graph. So I just put as many that will fit. And it looks like this. Are there any questions?